This is going to be a talk about how to collaborate better to control red blotch. And we split this into two sections. In the first section, I'm going to introduce you to some of our projects on this topic. And that's going to end in me telling you about some workshops that we're going to be offering at the extension where you can learn how to collaborate more effectively. In part two, I'm going to hand over to Carrie. She's going to give you a demonstration of some of these skills. And that's so that we can impart a basic principle of collaboration that you can take home with you and to act as a teaser to try and get you to sign up for those workshops. Okay, now Neil covered some of this already, but let's just mention a few of the many ways in which red blotch is a challenge. So number one, it can cause large, devastating financial losses, but at the same time, the management practices to control the disease can also be incredibly expensive. I'm thinking, of course, of the fact that you may have to remove many infected vines or whole vineyard blocks, and that often creates an economic dilemma where it's not clear necessarily to a grower whether enacting these management practices will be cost-effective or feasible in the long term. Now, part of the reason that economic dilemma exists is because our scientific understanding of red blotch is still in development. So there's no established guidelines as to what to do in every situation, and there's new studies coming out all the time. And it can be really hard to keep track of that shifting baseline of information, keep updated. And that causes a lot of uncertainty, and it makes it a really hard thing to talk to people about and explain the science behind. Okay, and then as Neil just told us, red blotch is a disease that spreads through vectors. This is a time lapse of some vineyard blocks in Napa that my colleague Sarah McDonald put together. And you can see the disease spreading through the blocks and emanating from certain areas. And as Neil said, it's therefore, it's a community problem. It's not just about what one individual vineyard does. What your neighbours are or are not doing is going to impact you. And we're certainly not at the point where we have high enough adoption of practices where we can control the spread. Therefore, sorry, I seem to be missing my titles on mine. Therefore, if we want to successfully manage red blotch in the future, we need to include two things. One of those is we need to ensure that the scientific knowledge is disseminated as efficiently as possible. And that's so that we can encourage people to adopt practices in the first place, or at least make the best quality decisions they can at any one moment in time. B, we also need there to be collective action by growers. And what I mean by that is neighboring vineyards will have to collaborate to share knowledge and data about the disease and to try and coordinate practices where possible. For example, replanting neighboring blocks at the same time. So my central argument is that it's not just about waiting for a perfect set of guidelines to arrive to tell you what to do. Even if we have that, we need to take account of the human interactions that go on around managing the disease if we're going to optimize a response. For that, we need the social sciences. Handily, I'm a psychologist. So let's think about how to disseminate the information in the best way possible at the county level. Obviously, the extension exists to spread. One of its primary functions is to spread knowledge. And traditionally, we do that through activities such as presentations, writing articles, fact sheets, creating educational videos, and so on. And these are all critical activities to do. Growers like them. When they come from us, they generally trust them. But mostly their function is just to spread awareness. It's not often we'll do these things and then people straight away go out and take an action. But what we know is that communication is much more effective, and a lot of the persuasion happens when it's in a direct face-to-face conversation, especially when it's coming from peers that we trust and respect and people that we think are similar to us in some way. So, for example, another grower or a respected grower in the community. Why is that? It's because it reduces uncertainty. So most farmers are fairly risk averse when it comes to adopting new practices, especially when they're really expensive. So before they adopt an idea or practice, they want some reassurance from their peers that it's going to go well and it's going to be worth doing. It also reduces the effort of gathering information. So we can't all read everything about every topic. And so we frequently rely on other people who we think know what they're talking about and to get our information and kind of copy what they do. And by doing that, that speeds up the spread of a good idea. So if you're a good farm advisor, what you'll try and do is to have some of these direct conversations yourself and also try and promote those conversations within the grower community. Okay, and now a way to help us do this is to think about the social networks in the county. So this is some data I'm working on at the moment, still collecting information for it. This is a social network diagram. And what you can see is all these dots are people in Napa County that communicate about pest and disease. And the lines between them are who they communicate with. Now, almost all of them are people who are involved in making decisions in the vineyard about pest management. So they're effectively all the people that we want to get our information to on Red Blotch. And the dot in the middle is the farm advisor, Monica Cooper. Now at the moment I've got 151 people in this network, and I'm pestering people constantly to try and get them on this network. In reality, it's probably something around about maybe 2,000 people. I don't know, something like that, a lot of people. So you can't reasonably expect the farm advisor to go and talk to every single person. So what we will do is use this information to try and target our time and resources at the people we think are going to spread the information the most effectively. And generally, those people are the people in the center of the network who are well connected. So rather than talk to someone on the outside, we'll go straight for those central influential people, give them our information, and it will spread out through the network. We may also be looking for populations that are kind of more distant and unconnected from the network. So at the top of the screen, you can see there's a group of people kind of off from a distance on their own. We might want to target one of those people on that line of communication up to them to make sure we get that information to that community. Okay, so generally the denser and more well-connected the network is, the better it's going to be at spreading information. So the obvious question is, can we improve the network? And pretty much anything that gets people in the same room should be beneficial. So this meeting is a good example. So you might think that the most important thing at these meetings is the presenter, but I would argue that probably equally important are the conversations you're going to have with each other by the taco truck, having coffee, where you're going to be talking about the information you just heard. And another way to improve a network could be through the idea of a neighborhood group, which you just heard about briefly from Neil. So what we're doing at the moment is we're doing a project to study these groups. If they're not familiar to you, what they are is representatives from neighboring vineyards, and that cover a small area, maybe 5 square miles. And they're usually pretty small. Their core membership is normally about 10 people, and they're formed to address some kind of shared threat. And it could be a single issue, such as vine mealybug, leaf roll, or they could be concerned with a whole list of issues. And then in the background, we have Napa, which is a bigger organization operating across the county, but doing something very similar. And this is still in progress. Oh, sorry. So the purpose of this project is to document what these groups are doing, try and understand their impacts, and then understand why they succeed and why they sometimes fail, and then try and build resources so that we can help these groups run their operations and to help new people that want to form new groups. And this is still in progress, so I don't have all the information yet, but I've got a few things I can show you. So the core activities of these groups center around an informal discussion. So they meet 3 or 4 times a year and talk about what they're seeing in their vineyards, their observations of the threat, and share knowledge about practices. Some of them go a bit further and do more organized projects, but the core of it is this informal discussion. And that's usually credited with creating a safe space where the neighbors can connect with each other and start to have a conversation about a potentially sensitive subject. Now, one of the criticisms sometimes leveled at these groups is that it's just people sitting around talking and they don't really go on to achieve anything. And so therefore, some neighbors may be reluctant to come along because they don't think it's a very good use of their time. But what I've done is started with interviewing all the coordinators of these groups. And they tell me that, in fact, even that modest activity of relationship building a few times a year can lead to some very beneficial impacts outside the group. So people may come to the group, learn about practice and go back to their companies, adopt it. Provides an opportunity for them to make a connection with their neighbors and collaborate on practices outside the group. Some of them perceive a reduction in disease over a long period of time, and it also might create a resilience in the community when a new threat comes along, because you already have that kind of network of people that know each other, so you don't have to form a whole new one all over again. So what we're doing this winter is we're going to be surveying the members of these neighborhood groups to try and understand what these impacts are. So if you're a member of one of those groups and you see one of those surveys, consider filling out one of those. Another way you can see an impact of these groups is to return to our network diagram. And you may have been wondering who the blue dots were. Those blue dots are all leaders of the neighborhood groups. And what you'll notice is that pretty much all of them are very central to the group, so they should be fairly influential, and they have clusters of people around them. I know that a lot of those clusters contain members of the neighborhood groups. So I can't tell you cause and effect at the moment, but I'm speculating, hypothesizing that this is some evidence that the groups have kind of brought the network closer together, made it more connected and denser. And it also shows that those people are excellent people to talk to, give out information to, if we want to spread knowledge. Okay, moving on. Now, I'm very proud of my social network diagram. But there's one limitation that keeps bugging me about these theories, and that's that they seem to assume that if you just herd people into a room, they're just naturally going to be good communicators, make connections with each other, and some kind of magic is going to happen. But then we started to think, well, what actually happens in those conversations? Does it always go very well? And what we learned is that in reality, there's a lot of people really struggling to communicate about red blotch to each other and get those collaborations that we need off the ground. So we thought, me and the farm advisor, Monica Cooper, how about we could train people to be more effective communicators over this topic, and then that will make our network better. And at that point, I had to hold up my hands and say, not that kind of psychologist, don't know how to do that, not sure where to start. But then, just by chance, we found out there's someone in the county who knows exactly how to do this. So I'm going to hand you over to Carrie, because she's the person we found, obviously.
So, Malcolm, communication, get over there. Building on what Malcolm said, this is a audience participation question. By a show of hands, how many of you have been in a meeting where the discussion becomes polarized around courses of action? People going round and round, disagreeing about what to do. I think we should do this about red blotch. No, we can't do that. And the conversation goes round and round, and you walk away thinking to yourself, well, that was a waste of time. Okay, thank you. Yeah. So how can you improve those kind of conversations to ones that are more, not only more productive, but also more satisfying? And viticulturalists that Malcolm and I spoke with, we interviewed many and surveyed many, told us, they really, just like Professor McRoberts said, you need to be able to skillfully collaborate internally first in order to skillfully generate collective action externally with neighbors. So 74% of the VITs that we surveyed told us this. These two circles are meant to represent, you need to be able to internally collaborate effectively so that within a company you are aligned on decisions and have support of decisions so that you can create collective action externally. That external collective action is really dependent on internal coordination and collaboration. So what were the specific challenges that viticulturalists told us? These will likely sound familiar to you. They said, it's hard to communicate clearly about RBD and really create consensus around actions, that sometimes viticulturalists need to speak to people with higher formal power who may hold the purse strings and may be reluctant to support what a viticulturalist is advocating because of the financial costs. It's hard to break bleak news to clients and to neighbors. And there's a sensitivity to the nature of these conversations. There's often a blame bomb and a lot of conflict and really a reluctance to admit virus problems. Does that sound familiar, any of those? So with these challenges in mind, with two groups of viticulturalists last year, I conducted 6 workshops teaching collaboration skills. And the reason we did this, as we've already heard this morning, is those collaboration skills are actually rarely taught. Like Malcolm said, it's just sort of this assumption, you bring people together and they'll be able to magically produce good results. And that we know from experience that that's not true. So what are the results that learning these practical skills can lead to? More fully informed decisions, increased commitment to the decisions, stronger positive working relationships, both internally and with neighboring vineyards, for example, and increased productivity, as well as innovation. It's my understanding, I'm not schooled in RBD or in your field, but I did hear from Caleb that innovation is called for in terms of managing RBD and other viruses. And here's ways, these skills will help you do that. Conducting the workshops, we collected some feedback, and here's what participants told us. 90% said they were very useful, and that helped them develop some skills to effectively communicate, even just electronically, to move collaborations forward, so move from stuck to unstuck, to get out of that round and round, back and forth disagreement, and to really agree on actions for RBD management, and then provide just really good structure for those neighborhood groups that Malcolm talked about. So the feedback was positive. The skills that the participants learned helped them further the conversations. So I want to give you a taste of what gets covered. 2 really different ways. Wait a minute, what happened to the?
Yeah, we don't have titles.
Oh, okay, let me go back, sorry. Okay, I'll read the titles. What the participants learned is compared 2 very different ways of thinking that lead to 2 very different ways of interacting, which generate very different results. One way of thinking and acting is like playing chess, where the person you are playing against is called your opponent, right? You're trying to win. When you play chess, you're basically trying to out-strategize the person you're playing against. And in chess, you typically don't share your strategy. You keep information close to your chest so that you can win. And the results you get are often an impasse, or there's a winner and there's a loser, right? That's not going to work in terms of RBD management. The second way of thinking and then interacting that leads to very different results is more thinking about solving this, how to manage RBD effectively like a puzzle, where each person has a different piece of the puzzle. And you have to think, okay, I've got a piece of the puzzle, here's my piece, what's your piece, and what's your piece, and what's your piece? And you put the pieces of the puzzle together, and then you understand the whole picture and can make decisions based on that. So that leads to more fully informed decisions, reduce costs, increase implementation time, faster decisions, and greater trust and commitment to decisions. And also, it's less stressful. So that way of thinking in terms of a puzzle is grounded in two core values I want to highlight. One is curiosity. You have to be curious about what other people are thinking and feeling and seeing. And you also have to be transparent about your thoughts and ideas and knowledge and information. So when you're both transparent about your, metaphorically speaking, your piece of the puzzle and curious about others' pieces of the puzzle, then you've got all the information out on the table. With me so far? Okay, cool. All right. So I want to give you a little bit more detail about the difference between those two ways of thinking and interacting. And then after I do that, I'm going to ask for 2 volunteers to come up on stage and join me for a demonstration so you can see clearly the difference between basically ineffective ways of interacting and more effective ways that you would learn in these workshops. So I say that now because I want to plant the seed for you to start thinking if you're willing to come up here and demonstrate with me, be part of the demo. So the first way of thinking that's ineffective is really a mindset that I get it, you don't, I'm right, you're wrong. And my feelings and behavior are justified. If you would just go along with me and stop being so difficult, we could move forward with what I think we should do about RBD. That leads me to control the conversation, not share a lot of information. I tell you what I think we need to do, and I really just focus on getting my way. As a result, you don't have a decision that's fully informed. It's wasted time. It's frustrating and demotivating to solve problems together. A more collaborative way of thinking and acting is, like I said, I assume I have some information and so do you. Let's get all that information out and make decisions together. So I'm both transparent and curious. I share what I think, and then I ask you, what do you think? I explain my reasons, and I jointly design what to do about the next steps rather than try and control it. Okay, so with that, I am going to invite 2 of you to come up here and join me in a demonstration. A little bit more information before you run up here and decide to volunteer. I'm going to do the same scenario twice. One where I'm going to be ineffective viticulturalist, and the second time where I'll be more effective. So I'm going to ask for one of you to come up and play the role of an executive in the company, and another person to come up and be a winemaker. Don't all rush. Okay, while you're thinking about a couple other bits of information, I'll give you some scripting about what I want you to do when you're up here. We're going to demonstrate the 2 demos. Each one will be a maximum of 5 minutes. Everybody else in the audience, I'm going to ask you to make observations on what I say and do, and then we're going to compare and contrast the difference so you can see what you would learn in the workshops. Okay, with that, what brave souls are going to come on down? Chris.
Yep.
This is Chris, and this is Jake. Hey. Okay, great. Thank you. Carrie. Okay. So here's your assignment. First, who wants to be the executive and who wants to be the winemaker?
Oh, wow.
Okay. All right. Is that what you are now?
Sure.
See how easy you get promoted? You come to one of these and you get promoted. And so you're going to be the winemaker. Exec and winemaker. Okay, executive, your job is to, I want you to hold on to your position that it's going to cost a lot to remove Block A. Hold on, let me show you. Okay, I'll read it to you guys so you don't have to turn your neck. Executive, Jake, your job is you really can't see justifying the expense to the owners, and you don't think it's that big of a deal, the RBD infection in Block A. And you understand that the quality of the wine can be compromised with RBD, but you know that block is part of the prized vineyard for the wine that you make, and so you don't want word to get out that there's RBD infection. With me so far? Okay, so I want you to play the role, don't be overly difficult, but be realistic, you know, and stick with your position. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
3 minutes? 3 minutes?
3 minutes?
That works.
Okay, yeah, that'd be good. Okay, sorry. Okay. Let's see, is there anything other directions? Oh yeah, as I said, all of you, your job is to observe. And I want you to just pay attention to what I say and do, and then think about what your reaction is to what I say and do. And then after we do this for a couple minutes, I'm going to ask you what you notice. And I'm going to ask you guys also, what do you see? How did it land with you, how I interacted with you, okay? All right. And again, forgive me if I stumble in terms of RBD knowledge. I'm not a scientist like you all are. I'll do my best to fake it. Okay. So I want to talk about, we really need to remove Block A. I mean, it's just, I think we got to be safe than sorry. I mean, I went to this ROOTSTOCK event and was told, you know, we got to first get clean. And so I think that's what we got to do. So that's why I had that on the agenda for today's meeting.
Well, we all know that money is probably the most important thing about winemaking. And last year we saw a significant decrease in yields and subsequently profits. So we're really not in a place, I've talked to the board, we're really trying to keep things stable and afloat. We don't want to sell, so we really can't afford to lower production. And well, I don't know, from a winemaking perspective, I've heard it's not that bad.
Well, I mean, with all due respect, given your role, we can't afford not to. I mean, I don't see how it's sustainable. I mean, don't you agree?
Yeah, Block A goes into our highest priced single vineyard Cabernet. We can't take that out. The wine's been good. We need that.
Well, we need that, yeah, and we need it to be clean. I mean, I'm thinking, I think we better be safe than sorry. Doesn't that make sense? Better be safe than sorry? I mean,
I understand what you're saying, but I don't know how this is going to look to our competitors, and it might be seen as a sign of weakness, and we're really tight on money right now, and we need to make sure that we're doing everything we can to drive profits and keep things stable.
Well, I mean, I know that so it sounds like you're thinking about reputation, but I'm thinking it could be a sign of strength that we are being proactive in how to manage RBD. I mean, wouldn't that be a good thing to put out there? We could be the role models. What do you think?
Can't we just wait a couple years? The wine is still good coming out of that block. Why not wait a few years?
Well, because RBD is marching along. And I don't know what's going on with our neighbors right next to Block A. So I'm thinking, I go back to my original, we really got to get approval to fund removing Block A and replant. Yeah.
Again, from a financial standpoint, we haven't seen other wineries take action. It's a fairly new disease. We still don't know all the effects. What if in a year, oh, there's this miracle serum and you just put it on your plants?
Yeah.
So I think we need to wait and see.
Okay, time. Yep. Okay, we'll just pause there for a minute. All right, audience. Yeah, thank you. By the way, don't go anywhere. You can't run off the stage yet. What did you hear me say, and what was your reaction to what you heard me say? Anybody? Yes. What did you hear me say that leads you to say that?
You're not providing facts.
Okay, I didn't provide facts. I didn't provide much data. Yep. Yeah. And so what was your reaction to me not just saying we got to just do this without providing facts? How did that land with you? Wait. I got what I got, right? Wait. Okay, other observations, yes.
You don't have a solution for dealing with a huge financial blow. You're not
Right.
Come on.
Right. And what did I say or do or that led you to that? I
Will
agree
you
with
repeat for those on Zoom that can't hear? Sorry, I can't get to them.
Oh, okay. So should I repeat
The feedback.
Okay.
I'll try to hand it
one
out.
more time?
That you don't have a solution to combat what they're saying. You're not.
Okay. So the feedback is that I didn't provide any solution or something to counter what Jake and Chris said. Did I get that right?
Yes.
And so how did that land with you? Oh, good.
Am I saying the whole thing again for the
No.
microphone?
How did that? What was your reaction to that?
Of just saying better safe
that I
than
didn't come
sorry.
up-
Of like, there's no substance there. There's
No,
not a
there's
proposal
no there
for
there.
we'll get back on time with this timeline. Like there is no plan.
Okay,
and
no
that's
plan.
not very satisfying.
Okay. Yeah. Sure. Not very satisfying. Other things I said. Yeah.
You mentioned that you have no idea what's going on with the neighbors, so that might be a reason not to do anything. If you plant a new block, then you might just get reinfected.
Yeah. And so what was your reaction to me hold on, keep the microphone for a sec. What was your reaction to my comment that, well, we don't know what's going on with the neighbors? How did that land with you that I said that?
That just doesn't lead you to do any action. If you don't know what's going on,
Yeah.
then how can you possibly
come-
make a decision?
And right. Okay. So frustrating. How about you two? How did it go for you?
You didn't ask us if there was anything we thought we could do, or like ask him what the budget is, or ask me, oh, are there any other blocks we could put into this high block, or could we do half the block? There was no collaboration whatsoever. It was just, we need to do this.
Yeah. And so what was your reaction to me being we need to do this?
Just to become defensive, basically.
Yeah.
Stand my ground.
So I stood my ground, so that led you to stand yours. How
Yeah.
about you, Jake?
I agree, and I think there was also no appeal to like the financial side and the other aspects,
Yeah. Okay.
and not really seeing it from the other perspective.
Okay. And what was your reaction to that?
I mean, it's hard to say as like an executive who only cares about money, but I think it's good to see other perspectives, even
Yeah.
if you don't agree with
Yeah.
them, and just try your best and compromise.
Okay.
Put yourself
Cool.
in their shoes.
Okay, cool. All right, thank you. Okay, rewind. We're going to do it again. This time, I'm going to be more effective using some skills I know about collaboration. And so you two, I want you to still have your perspective and your opinion. It can even be strongly held. And I want you to respond naturally to how I respond, because I'm going to be different. That said, I don't want you to just roll over it, because this is the better way, okay? Let's have a good conversation about it, and so be normal. Does that give you enough stage directions? Mm-hmm. Okay, all right. Okay, ready, Malcolm? Okay. All right. Thanks for letting me add this to the agenda. The question I put on the agenda is, what should we do about Block A given the current amount of RBD infection? And the reason I wanted to talk about it is I am hoping we can come up with a decision about what to do about Block A that all of us can support. And the reason I say that is, if you remember last time we had this conversation you remember a couple weeks ago we met about right? You're like rolling your eyes already, I can see. Yeah, I walked away from that conversation going, well, that was a waste of time, and kind of infuriated because I thought we just argued back and forth and didn't go anywhere. Am I describing how that conversation went accurately? Yeah. And so I'm thinking, I would love for us to try and have a conversation that is more satisfying, but also more productive, and that is that we can come up with a decision that all of us support. Because while the science about RBD is emerging and changing, and there's no cure, we also know that it really calls for collective and collaborative action. Okay. So that's with me so far in terms of what I'm hoping we can walk away with.
Sounds great.
Sounds good.
Yes,
Yeah.
I agree.
So, okay, I also want to know, I'm not questioning your role as a winemaker and as the executive. I just think we each have different perspectives and ideas and things that are important about this. So we got to get all that on the table so we can come up with a decision that we all support. Okay. So here, bear with me, I prepared a flip chart of how I propose we have this conversation. That we complete this sentence as best we can, as much as possible. Hopefully you all can see that. Here's what I think it would be helpful. Before we make a decision, we list all the criteria that must be met in order to have a good decision. So let's fill out this sentence as many times as we need. Whatever decision we make about RBD and how to effectively manage it, it needs to be a decision that what? For example, that I'm going to say takes into account the most current data. Another might be it's aligned with long-term vineyard management, that we do not just Block A, but we're also looking beyond Block A. So my point is, like, if we come up with all the criteria that any decision must meet, then I think we'll probably take into account all the things we each know and think are important. So let's go. What do you got?
We still need grapes to put into our highest priced wine.
Okay, so what's important to you, let me see if I get this right,
Block
Chris.
A is our best
Right.
vineyard. We need something to replace it with that also
Okay.
has name recognition because it's our
Okay.
vineyard designate.
So we need to come up with a solution that preserves as much as possible the highest quality grapes in Block A or other. Am I getting that right, Chris?
Something that has name recognition as well.
Okay. And so we need to ensure grapes or vineyards that we has name recognition. Okay. Jake, what's important to you? Whatever decision we make, I'm guessing money. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, as a family-run business, I think it's very important. And when I focus so much on money, it's also because we're smaller. We don't have as many resources, and we
okay.
face the pressure of
Okay.
not being a big winery. So that's why I care a lot about the finances.
So whatever decision we come up with, it has to be minimizes costs to the greatest extent possible in terms of removing Block A, if that's what we decide to do, but also looking long term. So minimizes costs. Am I on track with
agree,
that?
yes.
Okay. Let me go back to you for a second. I had a thought. Given the part about name recognition, I'm guessing it's also important to you that we make sure that sales and marketing knows how to talk about, like if we decide we need to acquire another block, another vineyard, how to talk about it in a way that's consistent with the quality of our reputation now. Do I have that right?
Good idea.
Okay, all right. So enlists sales and marketing. Okay, great. All right, let's stop here. Okay, thanks. Malcolm. All right, thank you again. All right, what did you hear me say and see me do, and what's your reaction? Anybody?
Raise your hand. Don't be shy. I didn't see you.
It was more of a negotiation,
Yeah.
collaboration.
Tell me, I can hardly see you.
I'm Chris.
Hey,
Hi.
hey. What? Tell me, what did I exactly? Did you catch what I said that leads you to say it was more collaborative?
Sorry, it's a lot of things, I guess. Your whole demeanor. You passed the superficial level of the conversation.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. You didn't say this. Oh, what is the
10
sign you say?
minutes remaining.
Oh.
Hurry up.
Hurry up. No, that wasn't that collaborative. Okay, fair enough. Well, let me come back to you. I'm guessing because at the very beginning, you know how I said, hey, remember last time we had this conversation that didn't go very well? Like, to me, that's being both transparent about the experience, and it helps explain the reason why I want to do it differently this time, because they also walked away with not feeling so great about the last conversation. Okay, cool, thank you. Yes?
Much more collaborative approach, but fundamentally, the answer had to be in the room, right? Somebody actually has to have an answer. And so there's no hypothesis on the table as to what the solution is, other than getting everybody to potentially engage. So somebody has to come to the table
Yes.
with a proposal to which people can collaboratively interact.
Yes, and by doing this, we would get there, because that way, the next step would be, so let's say we get all the criteria out, and then we go, okay, what solution meets this criteria to the extent that we can? It may mean we prioritize these. I mean, this is a challenge, and the way to come up with a solution that we all are committed to is one that meets our needs and information. So we would get there. Okay? Other comments? What did you see me say or do, and what was your reaction?
I was thinking we needed a little more information on the side of the negative consequences. Speaking from my side, not having a lot of knowledge about your role here, it would be helpful to understand the negative consequences of not taking action. And I think that could potentially help the executive see the monetary consequences.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. How about the two of you? What was your reaction to the second demo?
I did think that it was obviously more collaborative. I didn't feel the need to be defensive because you were asking my opinion, but I'm also, one comment I'll have on this is that what if, as a vineyard person, you don't necessarily think that it's important to have the winemaker executive opinions, but ultimately, you are the most knowledgeable about Red Blotch and how the management is going to lead. What if I say, oh, why don't we keep half of Block A and we'll remove the other half? But in your mind, you're thinking, well, no, it's just going to spread back from the infected part back into the new part. And so what happens when there's not really a great compromise to be made?
Yeah, and partly because we don't know that the science there's no cure yet. Right, and it sounds like there's also no guarantee that even if we remove Block A and replant, that could also get infected, right? Am I on track with that? Yeah, I think part of it is, in terms of collaboration skills, is be clear about the decision-making process, like who decides what, but also to get all that information out. That, you know what, winemaker, even if we pull the infected part of Block A out, there's no guarantee it's not going to return. And so let's try and make a decision, even given that fact. So to your point, I need to make sure that we get all the information out, even though it's emerging as we go. So, yeah, thanks. I know this is a challenge with this, isn't it? Yeah, go ahead.
I think you appealed more to the other aspects of the winery. So a winery isn't just a business. It's not just enology. It's not just viticulture.
Yeah.
It's all of that.
Yeah.
And so understanding the echoes and how one impacts the other, not being so rooted in your own, and
Right.
understanding what that means
Right.
for the other people working, I think that's beneficial.
Great, cool. Okay, good. Okay. All right, great. All right, well, thank you. Round of applause to these two. Thank you very much. And we'll end with Malcolm talking about looking ahead.
Yeah, let's just take like 30 seconds. So this is the schedule of when the workshops are in February and March. So if you would like to sign up, at our extension stall in the lobby, there's a sign-up sheet, or you can just email me and I'll get back to you. I just wanted to let you know they are free, and you have to sign up for the whole series of 1, 2, 3 in either Group A or B. You can't just sign up for one. It's also the last time we're going to be offering them because the grant is coming to an end, so make the most of the opportunity. There's also a QR code there, and if you access that, it will take you to an online question that will, if you give that information and answer it, it will add you, I'll be able to add you to my social network model. So if you want something to do in a break, you can go and do that. The QR code is also out on our store. And that's it. Thank you very much. Thank you.